Internet, thank you once again for joining me to talk all things vertical drama. I have found another willing, and I promise they're willing, person who wants to talk to me about their life and times in verticals. See, promise he was willing.
Are you
And
going to let my family go, Jen?
we've got all vertical
Thank you so
already.
much. Thanks for
And
having
that's
me.
the very wonderful Brian O'Shea, who I promise is not tied up to a chair waiting for someone to come rescue him from a vertical kidnapping. um, Brian, okay, let's go back to the beginning. Where did you grow up? Do you have siblings? Tell me about your life.
Born and raised in Argentina, Rosario, Argentina, to a kind of, I mean, my parents never left the country, essentially. They're very Argentinian. My dad's name is Alejandro. My mom is Diana. They don't speak English, but we are technically Irish, Italian, Spanish, and like gene-wise. So that's kind of why I don't look very South American, I guess. Yeah, grew up there. I went to an Italian school. So that's, I guess, where the love for languages kind of started. Um, and then, yeah, I feel like when I was a kid, everybody was like, "Oh, you're such an actor. You're such a drama queen, whatever." I used to like pretend to be sick to not go to class. And it kind of became like, "Oh, what can I get away with?" And I started like pretending to have different things, different viruses. I was like researching the symptoms and like just acting out different things just to like spice things up, you know? If it was always my stomach, it was like boring and predictable. Um, but then I was like, no, I want to be a brain surgeon. So I went to med school for a couple of years, and then I realized that wasn't my thing. I was like too neurodivergent for that, and I wanted to like explore my soul and see what I wanted to do. And so I went. I'm like giving you the long story.
No, it's good. I
I
like the
went.
long story.
I try to make it as fast as possible. I went backpacking in Europe for 2 years to kind of find myself, and then I was like, no, actually, actor. And so I went to Australia to study acting for 2 years, and then I was, oh, Chinese food is kind of awesome. So I moved to China to start a food channel. I stayed there for 7 years, and then I was like, no, actually, acting was my thing. And so then I went to the States to be an actor 3 years ago.
Okay, right. There is so much I have to dissect there that you've just thrown at me. Okay, right. First of all, let's go to the crucial thing, tips for the kids. What was one of the best virus acting for getting you out of stuff that worked at school? What was one of the best ones?
I remember this one time that I was getting a little cocky with that. I was just like, I started saying that I had I don't know if it's the same in English, but it would be photophobia. So essentially, light is too much. It's like overwhelming and it hurts. And so I was like, I can't keep my eyes open. Like, can we turn off the lights? Can we close the blinds? And I started making it a whole thing, and I involved everyone else. I was like, guys, I really can't. I'm having a migraine. And they took me to this separate room, and I was just there in silence in a dark room, being like, what the am I doing? Like, and I had a test. It was like in the middle of a test. And I was just really committing to it. They were like, we're going to bring a doctor. And I was like, yes, please bring a doctor. And they brought a doctor, and I kept committing to the bid all the way until they sent me home. Um, and I got home, and then my parents were like, okay, just stay in the dark. We're going to go work. The doctor said that we need to check on you and for the next 24 hours, blah, blah. And as soon as they left, I started playing video games. And I was like, wow, I succeeded.
What did your classmates? I mean, my kids and their classmates, they'd love it because you've presumably got everyone out of a bit of work.
Listen, I don't think they knew. Now thinking back, I didn't have a lot of friends in school. So it was more I was like the introverted, plays a lot of video games kid. And I think they were all like, oh, Brian's just hypochondriac. He always has something going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Little
just
did they know
Brian.
I was lying.
It's just Brian. Okay.
It's just Brian doing his thing again.
Okay. So I have to ask then, because you said obviously being introverted, that's quite a big leap then to go, I'm going to go backpacking around Europe. So what was the drive
So
to do that?
I'm definitely an extrovert now. I think at least when I was back at home, I never felt like I belonged. And so it was more like I'd rather be by myself because I just can't relate to all these things y'all are talking about. And so I think that made me feel I was maybe not an introvert, but more like a loner, kind of like isolated myself. rather than it wasn't about getting drained by being with people or getting energy by being by myself. It was more like I don't want to. I'd rather be by myself and play video games. And then the traveling was more like came from that discomfort of feeling like I didn't belong and that I wanted to like figure out who I was. And I just wasn't very happy back at home. And so I was like, okay, let's see if there's a place where I can feel like I belong or like better about myself. And that was the drive to take me to
Okay.
Europe.
So, question next one is when you left Argentina, how many languages did you speak?
3. So
Okay.
I learned Italian in school,
Yeah.
and then I learned English by just watching American TV. But when I left Argentina, I remember I had a British accent
Mm.
because I had been watching a lot of BBC stuff like Doctor Who and like Sherlock. So I had a bit of a British accent, and then I had to change that up because people said it was weird.
Confused them. Okay. And then did you pick up more languages as you were traveling around Europe?
No, so I lived in Germany for 7 months, and I did the Duolingo thing. I still remember some things, but I don't know, I couldn't resonate a lot with German. I felt like it sounded a little harsh, and I was like, I don't really like it, and people here speak enough English that I don't really have to. Then I moved to Norway for another 7 months at some point, and I tried learning Norwegian, but people's English there is even better than in Germany. So I was like, what am I doing?
Mm.
Like, it is
Yeah.
such a specific language. What, like, um, but then when I went to China, that was like a you have to kind of thing because all these places I went by myself, and so it wasn't like I had my group of people where I could be like, I could retract and be like, oh,
Mm.
okay, I have my group of Argentinians that we can all speak Spanish and like
Mm.
whatever. And
Yeah.
so it was more like, when in Rome, do as the Romans do kind of thing. And so I learned the thing is that I have a very good ear. And so it's a good and a bad thing. It's kind of like a double-edged sword because I got to China and I kind of made it sound like my Chinese was so much better than what it actually was, just
Mm.
because I could pronounce it in a really good way. And so people just gave me more responsibilities. And like they were like, "Oh, you should come to this show. Here's the script." And I would grab the page and be like, "I don't know 95% of the words I have in front of me. I can't read Chinese. What are you?" And I have to be live tomorrow. And I would just like cry myself to sleep trying to memorize everything. And
Oh.
yeah.
So you told me Chinese food was the reason you went to China.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes. I went to Australia to study acting, and I was looking for a cheap place to rent, and the cheapest place was Chinatown. And so I was living in a tiny apartment with 8 other people from all different countries of Asia, and they were all like introducing me to their foods, and like a lot of them were Chinese, and they were taking me to all these restaurants, and I was like, holy shit, this I've never heard of these dishes. And they were like, dude, there's even more in China. I was like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean? And so, yeah, I bought like one way tickets to China and I was like, I just want to eat my life away and figure it out.
Whereabouts in China did you go when you bought that one? When that you bought that ticket, where did you land?
So I, I went to, I think, Tianjin first, because because I went there and I was like, I just want to have like a plan B, like a backup plan. And so there was a school that was like, hey, you can teach English here. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna go there, start the food thing. And if I'm like, oh, this is not what I want, I can always teach English. I had to teach English as a foreign language certificate. Um, and I taught English for like 3 months and I hated it. And so I just, thankfully, by the 3 month mark, my videos were already doing so well that I was making money with them. So I started a food channel in China. And it quickly, very quickly went kind of viral. And that's kind of what I did for 7 years.
What was the secret to going viral? You see, what do you think was your secret?
I think just this kind of curiosity and respectful curiosity for everything, for culture, the food. And so it was more like, I think at that point in time there were a lot of white people doing videos where they would just eat things that were deemed disgusting and be like, what the, what am I eating? Blah, blah. And so there was a lot of like judgment online about Chinese food where I was like going there and just eating whatever, like stinky tofu or like durian and being like, holy, this is delicious. And they were like, wait, this white kid likes this?
Mm.
What? And then they would just share it around. And so that it just immediately, I think my second video went viral.
Mm.
Um, and I was speaking English at that point. And so I was like, okay, I guess I need to start learning Chinese and do it in Chinese. Um, and that was a whole journey.
Yeah. Because people love those. There's still low. I mean, it's still hugely popular even on TikTok and Instagram now. I've just found recently an English guy in Germany and just doing the difference of cultures of just little things about we call it this, you call it this and that. I think
Right.
people are endlessly fascinated by that.
Yeah, and I think we give things for granted in the West. Like for example, we assume everyone's had a burger, right? But if you were to find a video of somebody from a tribe coming to America for the first time and trying a burger for the first time, wouldn't you be fascinated? Wouldn't you be like, I want to watch that? That's essentially the same. Like China is it up until like recently, I guess it was a very isolated country where it's like, okay, we have all these dishes that only Chinese people eat, and just
Mm.
having somebody from outside that looks completely different being like, I'm trying this for the first time. It's like, oh, I want to watch that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like China is such a big country that there's a lot of dishes that I would make videos about. And even my Chinese followers from other regions didn't know that existed. They were like, wait, what?
Mm.
And so I feel like I kind of helped this crazy, but I helped a lot of people in China kind of discover and make them want to travel to other places within China.
That's
Yeah,
so cool. That's so cool.
yeah. And because I got a lot of DMs of people saying like, dude, that's incredible that you've eaten more food than I have in my
Mm.
country. And that was like kind of cool. Like I kind of like being that guy for a minute.
Um, were you cooking most things yourself or were you going out to
No,
restaurants?
no, yeah, no. It was the whole like it was eating, just purely eating. I'm a good cook, but I don't. Yeah, I don't. Not in the videos. I wasn't cooking.
Okay. I
Yeah.
have to ask,
And there was a lot of like cultural aspects to that where, for example, I would take a slow train from one place of China to the other side for 20 hours and meet people on the way and ask them where I should go and get this one dish. And they'll be like, I'll take you. I'm going there too. And so we would get there at like 5 a.m. and I would go with this stranger to eat a bowl of noodles, and we would just like I'd be filming the whole thing, and so it was fascinating. It was like really cool. And it's like an old person that barely speaks Mandarin because they actually have a very strong accent because they normally speak a dialect of a different province, and it was just like a very broken communication. Um, and like other people, other strangers would jump in to translate for him. It was just fascinating. It was really cool.
so I came to vertical dramas via Korean dramas and then Chinese dramas.
Mhm.
So I watched Chinese dramas for 4 or 5 years. So yes, I need to ask about Dorian. So this is something I hadn't heard of at all in the UK. It's not particularly known over here. And then as soon as you watch a few Chinese dramas, there's often a little bit about one of the characters likes Dorian, but Dorian is very strong smelling, but it's worth getting past for the food. Is it as bad as it's made out?
You've never had durian?
No, but I know about it because of Chinese dramas.
Okay, I personally So this is funny because now I smell durian. I'm like, oh, I want some. It's not like there's no negative. Uh, it's not received negatively, but I do remember the first time smelling it, being like, what the hell is like? What am I smelling?
Yeah,
But now I think it's just something changed in my brain where I'm like, okay, I relate that to the flavor that comes after. So
yeah.
now it's not a negative experience. And there's a lot of dishes like that. A lot of fermented dishes are kind of like that. If you think about it, the first time you smell kimchi or
Mm.
sauerkraut, it's a
Yeah,
pungent smell. But then after you have been a couple times, it's like, oh, that's
yeah.
that's that thing. Durian is delicious, but there's a thing in Chinese medicine where they say that durian is very heat producing, and so it will kind of feed the fire inside you, and that's a bad thing. So you got to keep that fire at bay. You got to balance that fire. So don't eat a lot of durian because you'll get canker sores and pimples.
I like that. This is now health advice for Brian. This is brilliant. Um, so I want to talk about obviously you have been in a few Chinese dramas, which is very exciting because I realised that I'd watched you in one of my favourites, which is called
That is
Gank Your
so funny.
Heart. Because one of the things I love about Chinese dramas is that they have managed to make maths sexy, okay? And computer science sexy. Because obviously in English schools, it's always a thing. Everyone hates that. But in Chinese
Yeah.
dramas, I always like the kind of school to college ones or sort of new age.
That's
It's
the hot
always the
thing.
male
That,
lead
ooh, he
is
knows
really good at a
math.
sport, but he's also really good at maths. He's always mega brilliant at maths. And he can normally do loads of coding. And then there's a whole genre which you were in of one, Gank Your Heart, which are like computer game ones as well.
Hmm.
Computer game whizzes.
Yeah.
How did you go from your food channel to being basically a fairly important character in Gank Your Heart?
So I think when I went to Australia before China, I already wanted to act, and I kind of went on a side quest for the food channel, just because I was like, okay, you need to create your own work. It's going to be hard to break into bigger productions. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to focus on this and figure it out. And as I was getting a following, I started meeting actors, and I was like, oh, I bet I could act in things here. But then what happened was, and this is kind of sad because this is like a representation of our modern society, which I wanted to act. That's always been my dream, right? But I was making so much more money with social media, which it wasn't really what I wanted to do, and it wasn't really my dream. But it kind of pushed acting to the side. It like that became my main thing because I was making so much more money with. And then I started being like really picky with like the things that I would take for acting. And that's why all the things I've done in China for acting were like really good roles with like celebrities at that time, like Gank Your Heart. I was like the enemy to Wang Yibo, which was at that point it was like the
He's a
top celebrity
megastar.
in China. Yeah, yeah, and so that's the only reason I took that, even though I was getting paid way less than I would get for my social media ads. But I was like, okay, that's a cool opportunity. I want to take
Mhm.
it. And now looking back, I should have taken way more acting jobs while I was there. But I was
Mhm.
just very picky because of that. Um, but yeah, they came to me and they were like, well, you have a social media following, which I don't know if we've said, but I did really well, especially in like 2018. I had like 10 million followers. Like I was very well known in the online space in China. Um, and so it was more like, hey, we want you because we know that you are going to bring traffic into this production. And so I was like, yeah, cool. Um, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun. Everybody was awesome. Wang Yibo was great. I remember we used to like the actors and the crew. We were having like a different place to have lunch. So I was like sitting with him and a couple other actors, and we were just like play video games and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. Um, but my Chinese was really bad at that point. A lot of the lines I say in that show, I have no idea what I'm saying.
Okay. I love that.
I
Have to go back
memorized the
and watch.
pronunciation,
Yeah.
and I had no idea what I was saying.
Oh, but it's quite a nice one because you're the leader of the other one of the other gaming teams. But I think in that
Kind
one
of.
you hug it out, don't you? I think you hug it
What's
out
that?
at the end. I think in that one you hug it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's at the end.
It's
It's
a
like
nice end.
I kind of like respect him. I'm like, okay, you good. You know, like you won fair and square. You have heart. Hell yeah. I'll
Yeah.
see you next year, kind of thing.
Yeah, you came out that better because I've watched another one where it's a non-Chinese actor and he was not as good. He was not as gracious as you. So you did really well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a bit of a mental breakdown, but then I'm like, you know what? It's fine. Shrug it up. Yeah.
Okay. Then.
Yeah.
Um. So the question would be then, why did you decide to come back to America?
Well, technically,
Well,
it's
or go
just
to
come
America
to
even.
America.
Sorry, not even come back. Go. Sorry.
Right, right. Well, I mean, technically, I am from America, South America, but whatever.
Mm.
Um, and I think the dream had always been Hollywood. I just kept pushing it because I don't know, imposter syndrome. I was like, I don't think I'm good enough, or like whatever. And then I think COVID put things in perspective. I was like, look, we might die tomorrow. I'm already 30.
Mhm.
Why not? Like this, if I don't do it now, when am I gonna do it? And I was already kind of burnt out from social media. So I think it was more like, yeah, this is the time. Like if I don't do it now, I'm already burnt out. I don't really want to keep doing social media. I've always wanted to act. It just felt good. It
Mm.
felt right. And there was no really an opportunity that brought me here because when I came, um, verticals weren't a thing yet. I came in 2022 in May. So right after COVID was like kind of going down. And as soon as I came, the strikes started. And so,
Was that the final push? Everyone had had enough, and then oh, Brian's
well,
dead. Right,
but this is
strike.
okay. This is so funny because in my head, I was like, okay, social media, the burnout, all that. It just felt like the end of the second act of my overarching story. And I was like, all right, I moved to Hollywood. This is the third act. Everything goes well, and I become a celebrity. And like I just do so like Hollywood movies. And I get here, and then this strike start. And I'm like, wait, what? I was like, are you what do you mean? And so I realized that it was just a different season of the show. It wasn't in one movie, my life. It was just China was a season and that ended. And now we have this new season. And I had to start over with all the new problems and stuff. And that kind of change of frame it really helped me because I was very depressed when I came here and I was like, oh, there's nothing. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned verticals. I just want to ask, having been in China, were you aware of verticals in China and sort of the people watching a lot on their phones? What were you aware of when you were in China still?
I think they started right after I left because
Okay,
they were not a thing when I was there.
right.
And so I think they started literally in 2022, right after COVID opened up.
Yeah.
So I left in May
Mm,
2022, and I think they might have started later that year.
mm,
Or maybe they had started, but they were not popular yet because
yeah.
I have not seen any over there.
Okay, so you come back here. So my question is then, where do you first hear about verticals? Is it seeing stuff being advertised in LA, or did you hear from contacts back in China, hey, this thing's taking off? Kind of what
No,
came first?
so I had no idea. This is so funny because I heard about verticals at this film festival. It was Asian Film Festival in, I think it was either downtown or in Hollywood. And I'm there with some friends that are all in like in the either influencer space, social media or whatever, or in the film industry. And and I'm like, I'm just really hungry. I'm gonna go get some food. I'll be right back. So I leave in the middle of the ceremony and I'm out there. I'm like, okay, where can I go eat? And as I'm leaving, I see these two guys, and I'm like, yo, do you guys know if there's any like food? And they're like, they turn around, they're like, we're gonna get food. Do you want to come with us? And it was Eric Gilmet and Fabian Arnold. Like
Right.
just completely no, I swear to God. I swear to God. And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go. And we went there and got some food. And I was like, yo, so what do you guys do? And we just started like talking. We became friends there on the spot in this like food court, like just getting like random sandwiches and shit. And they were telling me about verticals, and I was like, "Oh, interesting." And they showed me a couple of videos, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds cheesy. Like, I don't know if I want to do that." And that was the first introduction I ever got from Eric and Fabian. So that was crazy. That was like a crazy coincidence.
Oh, of all the people to bump into. That's mad.
Yeah.
Um, so how soon from that to then you going, hey, I'm gonna send in some auditions for some of these?
So okay, this is kind of like now that I'm doing so many of them, it's kind of like weird to say because like I saw him in the beginning. I was like, I don't know if that's what I want to be doing. That looks very soapy. Um, and then it got to a point in which I was like, well, it's either I get a job that I don't like because LA is expensive, or I give these a chance. And I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's do one. And I did one, and I had so much fun. I was like, why have I been so against these? Why have I been so judgmental? I was like, let's keep doing them. And I've been having so much fun, and I regret honestly not starting earlier. I avoided them for like a whole year, and I missed out on a lot of opportunities.
Why was it fun? What's the fun?
I think, first of all, just being on set, that's just like, I feel like that's my homeostasis. Like being on set, it's just like, people are like, oh, you're there 12 hours waiting. I'm like, nah, man, you're there for 12 hours, but you're like, I feel home, I feel like I'm at home. And I've never felt that before in any other space. And then just the people, like just hanging out with actors is such a blessing. It's just like you commit to different bits. They know exactly like comedic timing, and it's just like quirky, a bunch of quirky motherfuckers just on set living the life. Very talented people in the space, and just getting the reps in. Like hitting the marks, memorizing a bunch of lines, doing 12, 16 pages a day. It's just that is dream. That is the life that I wanted. And I think well, the only issue that I could argue could be better is maybe the script could be better in my opinion. Just because I want to do things that are like I'm here for the craft. Like I just want to be able to like have a very like fully fleshed out character and dive in and just become that person for like a couple weeks or a month or a couple months at a time. And I feel like that for now it's not really as doable in the vertical space just because you got to be like that, you know, it's like so much going on. But honestly, it's over. I'm already living the dream by doing verticals. If you tell me this is the only thing you'll do until you die, like this is it for the rest of your life, I'm okay with that.
Oh, that's such a good answer. Because you're really
Like I mean it.
passionate.
I
It's
truly
amazing.
mean it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also love that you like obviously someone who's traveled the globe and actually the place you feel most at home, I think you're saying is on a set.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's all.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, you can tell from how much I've traveled that I mean, the reason I left my home was to find out a place to call home, to feel at home, I went everywhere, and I feel like now here in California specifically, I just have a very solid group of friends, and I'm like, wow, I feel like there's so many people that didn't fit back at home now come here, and a bunch of artists and dreamers and just people with ambition and talent, and I'm like, wow, now I feel like I belong. This is my people. So it's cool to like. It's not really full circle because that would mean that I would end in Argentina, which won't
Mm.
happen. But um, yeah, it's just like a nice little arc that brought me here.
I love that, but that's what's brought you all together. Because a lot of people I talk to are like, they needed to leave where they were because it didn't feel big enough for the dreams. So, okay,
Oh yeah,
question is, so some of your early roles, I think it's fair to say you're not the lead, you're kind of supporting, or how hard is that jump to then get to a leading role
the
as well?
hard part. Oh, I would say the hard part was doing the supporting actually,
Yeah,
because like you know, I've been. This has been the dream for as long as I can remember. It's like it was hard to have to do a supporting and watching like not be the lead. You know what I mean? Like that was, but it was always like main supporting. And I think at the beginning it was almost like I wanted to test the waters, so maybe I just
mm,
didn't. This feels so wrong to say, but it is true. In the beginning, I was like, I don't know if I want my face in the posters. Like, I just don't know if I'm going to like it or not. So I don't want to necessarily be involved. Like, if I can do it under a pseudonym, even like you know things like that.
yeah.
And then I realized that was so silly. Um, and yeah, now I only go for leads. But I'll do a supporting here and there if it's good. An antagonist is way more fun to play than a lead. If antagonist paid as well as the lead, I would probably do more antagonist than lead.
That makes sense. You can have more fun with it. Yeah. I just need
Yeah.
to ask, you've done a vampire one and a werewolf one.
Uh-huh.
Which would win in a fight, vampires or werewolves?
Ooh, I've always been team vampire just because I don't know, growing up, it always felt like vampires were smarter, like werewolves were like stronger, but vampires had that wisdom of having lived for longer and just having this thing which is like I don't know, vampires were like more sexy in a way. Um, but saying that, I was not a vampire in my vampire vertical. I was just a human in that one, which I was very pissed about. I thought for the longest time until day one of shooting that I was a vampire as well. And then I found out it was just the one vampire in the whole thing. I
That's
was kind of
really
upset. Also,
disappointing.
I grew up watching Buffy. Was that?
That's just really
It was
disappointing.
disappointing.
You
Yeah.
think you're going to be a vampire
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, just a
And,
human.
and I grew up watching Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, and Angel, and things like that. And like, there was not a lot about werewolves growing up. I think werewolves kind of made a big kind of made it not really a comeback because they were never a thing before that. But I guess Twilight brought werewolves into the scene where it's like, oh, Jacob's hot, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean. And I think after that, werewolves kind of took a bit of a protagonist lead position in yeah in the film industry. But yeah, there's more stuff about vampires, I would say, than
Mm.
werewolves.
I mean, Oz is theoretically a great character in Buffy, but the werewolf Oz doesn't really do anything and disappears off. So I feel
Yeah,
they kind of
exactly.
gave up on werewolves after that and just stuck with the whole vampire and demons. So
Yeah, I guess it was just really hard to do the transformation, and it was a lot of like
yeah,
costly VFX. Whereas the vampires, it's just like
yeah.
thanks, that's it.
Um. Okay, so once you're doing leads, what's kind of the favorite? Okay, we're not going to talk about Game of Choice yet. But what's your favorite project that you've done as a lead that's out?
Outside of Game of Choice?
Yeah, that's out that people can watch.
Ooh, that is out. Because I just did a couple good ones they're not out, but I think those are just because
We'll come
I
to
feel
them.
like sure. I feel like um I only recently, because I only started this year to do verticals. And in the beginning I was like, I don't know, I was kind of I was getting used to them, I was getting used to the fast pace. And so I think my performance in the first ones was a little awkward, and it's been getting better as I go. But let me think, which ones are out? Oh, I think I would say either probably Forgive Me, Forget Me Not, but that one's like a little it's like the story is kind of a little too much. Um so maybe not. Maybe let's not recommend that one. The Scent That Made Him Mine is a good one. I
Different.
think. It's a bit different, yeah, yeah. And it's I die twice in that one, which is great. Um never permanently, which is awesome. And
What's
yeah, I
this?
do think that the ones that are about to come out are superior in a lot of ways.
Sorry,
There's
we're gonna
one that's like a 50 Shades of Grey kind of thing coming out.
cool.
I'm excited for that one because
Yeah.
I've never done that before. I don't remember what it's called, to be honest.
Okay. Do you even remember the app? That's the other question. Do you know what app it's on? No, it's fine.
The Real Plus, maybe?
Plus, it'll be
I
fine.
was a mafia guy. I was a mafia guy, and it was yeah, like a BDSM thing going on.
It'll be fine. We'll all know about it. It'll be all over the
It will
socials.
come out, and
Yeah.
y'all will see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I want to ask you about costumes. What's the best costume you've had?
Ooh. In a vertical.
Yeah. Any nice suits that you've taken a liking to?
I think it has to be Game of Choice.
Oh, my choice.
Just because it's like a uniform, where like it's kind of like a prison thing, and I had my own number. It was kind of cool. It was different. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you is I often get other fans message me going like, what is it with some of the suits and all the brooches and also some of the styling the females leads are given? And I'm like, well, it's kind of a lot of it's Chinese fashion. And I kind of will send them photos of, Chinese dramas and things. It's not a surprise to me, all the brooches and some of the looks. Was that the same for you? It wasn't quite such a shock just because you had lived in China?
I mean, it's funny because I feel like that's a look that is their idea of the Western look.
Yeah.
So it's not even that in China you would see people wearing that. It's more
Well,
like in Chinese dramas, they
dramas.
would
Yeah.
wear that because that's the representation of the Western fashion
Yeah.
style. And so it's like a wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you come here and nobody wears that. And so it's like a surreal, like it doesn't really exist. It's like it only exists in fiction.
Yeah.
Nobody actually wears that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like when you actually see billionaire CEOs, they're just wearing a t-shirt and jeans. It's
Yeah,
like,
there's several of them who famously, that's my wardrobe, so I don't have to make
right.
decisions that aren't worth my time. It's like,
That's right.
yeah.
No decision fatigue.
Okay. Next question, then we have to talk about Game of Choice.
Okay.
Okay. You're really mean, aren't you? Are there any redeeming qualities of Brad?
Look, I think he's very misunderstood. Okay. He I'm trying really hard here, Jen. He's a piece of shit. He's really a piece of shit. I think he's the celebrity in that universe. He is a famous actor that is used to just he's an action star as well. So he does a lot of physical action, and he's just kind of that. He's like a little bit. He has a bit of an ego, and he's used to people just doing whatever he says, and people are always kind of scared of him just because he's always like a mean character, and so like he's used to people just doing whatever, and he's put in a position in which it's like, okay, you gotta survive here, and he has all that energy build up, and he's always put this mask of being the tough guy. And so you can tell at the end, I don't know if I can, I guess, yeah, I can spoil at
Yeah, I
this
think
point.
that's,
Like at the end, that mask comes off and he's just like, no, please don't kill me. And like, I was just playing along to survive. It's like, he's actually just a guy that kind of went a little too far,
mm,
because I feel like we are all capable of horrible things given the circumstances.
mm,
Like if you had to like defend your kids,
mm,
like that you can always do bad shit if you are pushed,
mm,
and the buttons that he was pushed to with, where a lot of people wouldn't have, but I feel like the problem is that he enjoyed it.
mm,
I think that that's it. I think that's the beef that I have with him mostly, is that he started enjoying it, and he started having thoughts like, can I maybe stay here? Can I or like of Lafayette? Can I like, is this something I could do?
yeah,
Because I feel like that also happens. There's a lot of like myths out there, which people just having to do weird shit to just like get that extra satisfaction. And I feel like that's where he fell. He was like, "Ooh, I've never done this before. I want to do this more," kind
mm,
of thing. And that's why he's such a disgusting piece of shit.
mm. The thing I found really interesting watching it is that, in every game he's sort of out for himself and, he's very quick to like, well, this is how I'm going to survive. I will kill people, whatever. But the thing that's most outrageous is actually the whole dragging the money thing. And that's when you get most cross because of his whole, oh, well, we're just going to steal their money. And somehow that's more annoying. And like, that's not fair. It's like, never
That
mind, he
it
just
really was.
killed a few people, but he steals the money. And that's not fair.
I mean, you got to give it to him. He's smart because he was listening to the rules. He's like, okay, this is outside of what he said. I can do that. And then it's like there's no disqualifications in that round. It's only the people that you love that get the penalty in that one. And so he's like, why am I gonna waste the energy? Like we don't know what's coming after. Like why am I gonna be running around if we need to fight in the next one? Like I'm gonna save resources.
Yeah.
And so I think he's very smart actually.
Have you ever watched the Netflix show Physical 100?
I have, yes.
Because I'm
I
sure in
would
one of
love to
those
be in it.
games there is a one of them they were dragging money and some of the teams decide to steal off others. It's like he's in that and these are elite sportsmen people. But yeah, it
Wow.
and I
I
think the
wonder
one
what came
team who
first.
was trying to be all noble and didn't do that were the first eliminated. So there you go.
Well, I mean, like, and especially when the games are designed to put you against each other.
Mm,
Like, it was very obvious from the get go that these weren't games that were going to reward being nice.
mm,
They weren't games done by good people being like, oh, we're trying to see if you're a good person, then we're going to give you the money. Like,
yeah.
the reason those people were doing the games, they wanted us to kill each other. So it's
Mm,
like,
yeah.
that's how you win?
Did you have a big enough death scene?
I like it. It was so funny because, and I wish you would have been there, Jen, because we had the screening with the director's cut that actually I personally like better, because it has more scenes of me. And I'm trying to get the footage so I can like cut it into a show reel. But in my death scene, everybody in the whole place went, "Yeah!" And I was like, "Hey, what the?" I but it was good because if I created that reaction, that means that people really hated me. And I was like, that means I did a good job.
Yeah, I was thinking actually that's brilliant. That's much better than no one batting an eye. That's what you want,
Right?
isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. People were so happy I got killed. Like it was great.
Well, the thing is, as well, I think what's amazing is obviously there's so many good characters in that, but I would say you run Felix as Lafayette are very, very close for most like hated
Thank you.
character,
Thank
and that's
you.
an
I
achievement.
think look, Felix knocked it out of the park. He like went full on Shakespearean character work. He's incredible. I think his was a more kind of like theatrical, a little kind of cuckoo character. You know, he's been doing it for too long, and like his mind is kind of deranged. Whereas mine was like it was the beginning of that derangement. It was still a very grounded character, like a human. Like you could see somebody out there could become that. But Lafayette is more even like a demonic thing.
Mm,
Like wow, it takes a lot to become
mm.
like that. It's more like
Yeah,
a mythological creature versus an evil man.
yeah. I also wanted to ask as well, because obviously, you got to do a very good knife fight. Poor old Father Fox. You, I mean, he was never going to win, was he? I mean, come on, he's fighting an action star. So, um, action as well. Anyone who follows your social media know that you've actually got a lot of martial arts experience as well. Kind of, where did all that fit in with everything else that you're doing? How did you build that into your life?
I think it was always the thing in my life because I I grew up. My brother, my older brother, was always into anime and into swords and stuff. So I kind of got that from him. I wanted to be like him. He was like my idol growing up, and so I did everything he did. I started like watching anime because of him. I started doing martial arts. We were doing judo. He was doing taekwondo, and we had some weapons at home. We had those like practice swords, that shinai they're called. They're like an umbrella, like gloss umbrella made out of bamboo, and we would practice with that. Then we had wooden swords. We had nunchucks. We had bow staffs. And so I would just be in my backyard practicing with that and watching YouTube videos. But it wasn't until recently, until I moved to America, that I took it seriously and I started actually taking classes. And I kind of took it to the next level.
Can we have a martial arts vertical? Do you think that's possible?
Well, I would freaking love that, Jen. I'm pushing to have a vigilante vertical, and they better cast me because I'm gonna be so pissed. Um, But yeah, like just think about it, like a Batman without the bat element, just a CEO billionaire that at night fights crime with like a bunch of sticks and like puts on a mask and then falls in love with the other vigilante, whatever. Um, but
I
I
mean,
think
that's
there's
sorry,
a
that's
problem.
the pitch. Why would you not make that? That's the most obvious, brilliant pitch ever. Make that, people. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm waiting, honestly. I'm just like crossing my fingers. But I do think that there's an issue with the vertical format. Like fights don't actually look that good in a vertical format. And weapons too. Like when you start extending the range, that even with arms already, like a punch and stuff like that, you don't really see the punch. You just see a movement and somebody falls, and it's just very much like I feel the vertical format, we still need to find a way to make it happen. I think if you handheld and you followed the action through with the camera vertically, that would work much better. But then you would need rehearsal days and you would need train mark. Not everyone could do that. I'm down. I could do
Mm,
that. I'm trained, but it would require somebody who's used to filming fighting scenes.
mm.
And yeah, that could make it happen. But with a still shot, it's kind of.
Yeah.
But
That
yeah, I
makes
can't wait to have like a John Wick kind of vertical, you know?
it makes so much sense because there's a short vertical that some guys have done called Pizza Guy versus Vampires. And they've got
Okay.
martial artists in it, but they've managed a bit of the action's the best I've ever seen. But then I asked them, and yeah, the DP is a martial artist stunt guy. So he was obviously
There you
able
go.
to do exactly what you said and follow it. So yeah.
I need to meet these people. I need them to know about me.
Okay, right. I'll put contact later, don't worry. We'll sort all that out. That's all sorted.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Um, what do you reckon the future of verticals is?
I think it's very data driven. So I think numbers will tell, and it's up to the audience to support whatever they want it to become.
Mm,
I'm hoping I'm hoping it brings in better writers, better. I'm hoping it becomes more artsy and it gets like higher quality. I just don't know if the audience is, if that's what the audience wants to see. I think a lot of people like these because of how cheesy and soapy they are, and there's no problem with that. But I hope that as the audience expands, we get a variety of verticals, and I think that's ultimately what's going to happen. Just because there's so much money being injected into this vertical economy that let's say half of it is going to keep doing this. It's going to
mm.
keep doing what it is right now, and the other half is going to explore with other elements, and that's where the newer audience, like the younger people, and like I think you know most men wouldn't be like interested in like the rom-com, not rom-com, but like the more dramatic love story. I think maybe are more interested in like the action stuff. And so we can do more of that for a different audience. But I guess data and time will tell. It's kind of hard to tell right now.
And do you have any interest yourself into, because obviously quite a lot of vertical actors and actresses are interested in writing or directing or producing. Is that something that
So
interests you?
yes, my dream, my biggest dream is to start a studio eventually where I find funding for cool indie films. Like that, I want to make cool ideas happen and bring cool films into life,
Mm,
and help them happen. Like I want people who are talented to come with a dream and be like, "Hey, dude, I wrote this script. I think it's really good. Would you read it?" And I sit down, read it. I'm like, "Holy shit, this is great. How much money do you need? Let's find it. Let's fund this thing. Let's make it happen.
mm,
Let's find you whatever you need. Do you need a co-writer to make it to tweak it? Do you need $5 million? Do you need $10 million? Do you need a whole crew? Do you have people that you want to bring along? Do you have anyone attached? Do you need me to attach somebody and package it? That's eventually the dream. I'm definitely not there. I need way more connections. Um, but that's a dream. And so I've written a couple things. I've written a pilot and a feature film, but not a vertical, just because I think that just because it's numbers game, vertical scripts need to be able to be written in like a week for it to make sense.
mm.
Like if it, and I would spend, because it's an hour and a half, it's like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like a movie. That took me, my feature film took me months to write. If I, if I'm writing like a vertical script, if I take 3 months to write a vertical script, I'm doing one vertical every 3 months. That makes no sense for the numbers and the speed at which this is done. And I don't know if I want to write something in 7 days because it's not going to be what I want it to be.
Mm.
And so I think the vertical space is too fast for my creative output speed.
That makes sense. That makes so much sense. I also want to ask you, on your IMDb, you're also credited as a casting director.
Yes, I casted one project in the beginning. Yeah, I had a broken foot, and so I just couldn't act, and I was like, I want to be a part of this. Let's let's see what the casting process is like.
I love that. That's so cool. So that was a one-off rather than a.
Yeah, I wanted to do it more, but then I just got so busy with acting, and I enjoyed it way more than sitting, because casting is a lot of work. People don't know this, but it's so much work, and
Yeah,
it's a lot of admin work at home. And I'm like, no, I want to be out there on set.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Presumably a lot of emails, just a lot of emails.
Lots of emails and lots of people dropping out the day before and just freaking out,
Okay, yeah, don't need to be
just
dealing with
freaking out.
people freaking out. Okay,
Yeah.
some favorite memories from vertical sets recently.
Let me
As you've
think.
been on this year, a few favorite moments.
Um, Well, obviously, every day on Game of Choice. I know it's sounding cheesy at this point, but like truly, that was such a little treat to shoot. Um, that Airbnb we all stayed at in Joshua Tree, it was just one of the best nights of my life. Um, Let me think. I recently did one in New York. That was really cool. We were shooting in this like mansion, and I don't even know what neighborhood, but no, I do remember it because it was a really funny name, Tuckahoe. It was a place called Tuckahoe in New York. And there was this mansion, and we were pretending that there was a fire in the mansion, and so we had all these lights, all these like lights that were emitting red and yellow waves in a way that it just really looked like a fire in the shot. And they were all hidden like inside. So you could see the house, and there were these lights all around the window, but not like visible. It was just like in the back. So you would see all these lights through the window, and you're like, holy shit, there's a fire in there. Like it looked so good. And we transformed this van into an ambulance. I mean, I say we, art department did, into an ambulance by just sticking things around it. And I was like, when did we get an ambulance? And they're like, no, it's just the van you came in. And I was like, what? I thought it was so cool. Like how resourceful art department can be is just, I love their work. Big fan. Um, Let me think. I did another one in Atlanta right before that. That was really fun as well. It was with a Ukrainian crew. Um, that I've never seen that. There was not a single, because these are normally done by Chinese production companies, or at least like your Chinese client. This was a Ukrainian client, Ukrainian production company. Everybody was Ukrainian. And then on the last day, we finished wrapping at like 3 a.m. And they were like, let's get drunk. I was like, dude, it's 3 hours past my bedtime. And they were like, let's get drunk. And I was like, okay. And so we ended up like kind of partying until 5 a.m. And then I had a flight the next morning. It was crazy. I don't think I would be doing that again, but it was fun. We had a lot of fun.
All right, awesome. And actually, you just made me think of another final question for you. Is it handy being able to speak Chinese on set?
Yes, but less than people would think.
Mm.
It's handy because you just like you develop a deeper connection with the people.
Mm.
And then sometimes they come to me and they just like, instead of trying to figure out what to say in English, they can just say it in Chinese. I'm like, all right, cool. And it just makes things more efficient. It's not handy in the way that it doesn't get me cast more.
Mm.
It doesn't get me better perks. It does, it's just not like it's not like I have a VIP card by speaking Chinese. It's more like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're homies with the sound guy. We're homies with,
Yeah. That makes sense. Just a lot more efficient because, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And then just final question. What do you like to watch? So
What
what
do
are
I
your
like to
favorite
watch?
things? Yeah. What would your be like if people watch movies or TV shows based on your recommendations? What would you tell them to go and look at?
I'm a sucker for like fantasy and fiction. I don't like things that don't have like a supernatural element. I'm not a fan of like biopics and stuff like that.
Mm.
I also watch a lot of anime. But if we're talking about live action, let me think. Like Alice in Borderland was a good show that I just watched. What else have I been watching? I feel like there's something that I just watched and it's not coming to mind right now. Orphan Black, pretty good for actors. Have you seen Orphan Black?
Yeah.
Like it's this, what's her name? Maslati, something Maslati. She plays 7 different roles, and they're all so different. And it's like what? That's the same girl? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. It's one of
Different
those ones where
accent,
you're like, everyone would have killed for that role.
right?
Tatiana Maslany. Yeah.
It would also be like super hard, like not a lot of people could pull that off.
Mm.
And I think they shot every character. So she shot one character first, and then she shot the next character, and then the next character. But she looks so different, and her hair is completely different. And like even her makeup, one of them is like this like crazy Russian girl that has like really long blonde hair, and she has like eye bags, and she looks tired all the time, and she's just like insane. The other one has like braids, and she's like always like it's incredible. Like you watch her transform into these characters, and you're like, holy shit, very impressive. Yeah, I like watching stuff like that.
Okay, awesome. Well, I love this. We
Yeah.
end with your recommendations. I just want to say thank you so, so much for talking to me for well over an hour. Let me
Thank
answer
you, Jen.
questions. So, yeah,
Thank you. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you.